In every quiet house, after dinner has been cleared and the television hums softly in the background, there is a familiar scene. Someone sitting with a phone in hand, thumb scrolling, eyes tired, heart strangely restless. The hours slip past like water through open fingers, and when the night finally arrives, a gentle sigh escapes. I didn't have time for anything today. This is a story about one of those evenings, and one of those sighs. It is a simple story about a man, a broken phone, and a book that waited patiently for years to be opened. Daniel was in his late 50s, with silver beginning to appear above his ears, and reading glasses that he wore more often on his head than on his nose. He worked at an office that always seemed busy, though he couldn't quite explain what all that busyness added up to. Every evening, he came home, loosened his tie, turned on the TV for background noise, and sat down in his favorite armchair with his phone. His wife, Maria, would sometimes ask, "Did you ever finish that book I gave you for your birthday?" The book sat on a shelf just behind him. A beautiful hardcover, dust jacket slightly faded, a ribbon still marking the first chapter. It had been there for 3 years. Daniel always gave the same answer, with a little laugh. No, you know me. I'd love to, but I just don't have the time to read." He said it as if it were a fact of nature, like the weather or his age. No time. Life was too full. Work, bills, chores, family calls, the news, a bit of social media to relax his mind. The days came and went, packed with noise. One rainy Tuesday evening, he sat in his armchair, scrolling through his phone as usual, bouncing between news headlines and videos he didn't really care about. He was just about to open another app when the screen froze. He tapped it once, twice, pressed the side button. Nothing. He frowned, held down the power button. The screen went black, then flashed a strange symbol. Dead. Completely unresponsive. "Maria," he called out, a bit irritated. "My phone's not working." She came over, wiped her hands on a dish towel, and shrugged. "Maybe it's a sign," she said softly. "You've been saying you're too busy. Maybe life's giving you a little break." He wasn't amused. "I need it for work. For everything. I'll take it to the repair shop tomorrow." But that night, for the first time in a long time, his hands were empty. The first hour without his phone felt strange. The TV played, but he realized he had no idea what was on. He had never actually watched most of the shows. They were just there to fill silence while he scrolled. Now, with no screen to look down at, the room felt oddly quiet, even with the television on. He shifted in his armchair, rubbed his palms together, looked around the room as if searching for something to do. His eyes landed on the bookshelf. The book Maria had given him seemed to stare back. Deep blue cover, a small golden title, still pristine. The bookmark peeking out like a hand raised politely, waiting to be noticed. He hesitated. When was the last time I actually read something that wasn't a notification? He wondered. He stood up, walked over almost reluctantly, and pulled the book from its place. The smell of paper rose up when he opened it, faint but familiar, like visiting an old friend's house. He sat back down, adjusted his glasses, and began to read. At first, it was hard. His eyes kept wanting to dart away. His mind expected a new message, a new alert, a new reason to stop. But there was nothing to interrupt him, just the quiet rhythm of words, one after another. After 20 minutes, he realized he was no longer thinking about his phone. The story drew him in. It was about a man in late middle age, questioning the life he had built, wondering where his years had gone. The character walked through old neighborhoods, remembering dreams he'd abandoned. Daniel felt a strange, gentle ache in his chest as he read. Maria peeked in from the kitchen and saw him, their shoulders relaxed, eyes moving left to right slowly, peacefully. She smiled to herself and went back to her dishes without saying anything. That night, Daniel read for nearly 2 hours. When he finally closed the book, his eyes were tired, but his mind was calm in a way he hadn't felt in years. He looked at the clock on the wall and blinked. 2 hours. 2 whole hours he always claimed he never had. Where did these hours come from, he thought. The next day, he took his phone to the repair shop on his way to work. It'll be at least 2 days, the technician told him. 2 days without his phone. On the train ride to the office, Daniel sat with empty hands again. Everyone around him had their heads bowed over their screens, faces lit by the pale blue glow. He felt oddly naked at first, no device to reach for, nothing to pretend to be busy with. Then he remembered the book. He had placed it in his bag that morning, almost as an afterthought. He opened it, found his place, and the train faded away. The announcements, the rattle of tracks, even the crowded corral of it became background. For 30 minutes, he was somewhere else entirely, walking beside the character in the story. At lunch, instead of scrolling while he ate alone at his desk, he opened the book again. That evening, back home, he returned to his armchair, picked up the book, and continued where he left off, the pages turning more easily now. By the end of the second day, Daniel was nearing the last chapters. The story had grown more emotional, and so had he. The main character stood in an empty park, reflecting on everything he had missed, because he believed he was too busy for his children's questions, his wife's stories, old friends, quiet hobbies, and even his own thoughts. Daniel felt a lump in his throat. He closed the book quietly, staring at the wall for a moment. Then he looked around his own living room, at Maria folding laundry, at the window where the late afternoon light came in, at the shelf where so many unread books stood patiently. He thought of all the times he had said, "I don't have time," while his thumb moved endlessly over a screen. That evening, the repair shop called. "Your phone is ready to pick up." On his way home, he retrieved it. The device felt familiar and reassuring in his hand, like an old habit returned. The screen lit up, showing a long list of missed notifications and messages. He stared at it for a long moment, then quietly, he pressed the power button and turned it off. When he walked into the house, Maria looked at him, surprised. "Everything okay with your phone?" "Yeah," he said. "It's working." She glanced at his empty hands. Then, "Why?" He smiled, went to the shelf, picked up the book, and held up the last few chapters. "I want to finish this first." That night, he read the final page. The last lines of the story weren't dramatic. They were simple. A man choosing to spend his time with intention instead of letting it disappear in distraction. Daniel closed the book slowly and sat there, feeling the weight of his own days, his own choices. He thought of all the evenings he had spent relaxing with his phone and how strangely unrested he had always felt. He thought of the 2 days without it and the unexpected peace he had found in silence and ink. He realized then that time had never abandoned him. It had simply been traded away, minute by quiet minute, to things that did not truly matter. In the weeks that followed, Daniel didn't become a different man overnight. He still used his phone. He still watched the news. He still had busy days and tired evenings. But something small and important had shifted. Some nights, he turned his phone off after dinner and reached for a book instead. Other times, he simply sat with Maria and talked, without a screen between them. He began to see that his life was not as empty of time as he once believed. It was more like a room with many doors, and he had finally noticed which doors he had been opening by habit and which ones he had been ignoring. And in that quiet realization, he discovered a gentle truth. Our days often hold more space than we think. It's just that, without meaning to, we let those spaces be filled by whatever glows, buzzes, or calls for our attention first, rather than what truly feeds our hearts.